Everyone that's visited China or lives in China knows that every housing complex has these retail stores, these spaces underneath the tall condominium high-rises, and you'll see this often, that a lot of these are just completely empty. Now, how in the world are they going to get any kind of return on investment from these empty retail spaces? I do not know, but the same story can be said across every major city and every province in China, where you have just you know, thousands and thousands and thousands and, well, millions of meters of retail space that never opened to begin with. At the high-rise houses, which may or may not be full, a lot of them are sparsely populated. And then you've got the retail spaces at the bottom of every housing complex, completely empty. Now, there's got to be a moment where all of this kind of comes to fruition, and they have to pay for their losses, or perhaps they just write it off. I don't know, but it's very odd that you have these ghost retail spaces amongst what would be otherwise a thriving housing area that's full of people, but nothing on the bottom, nowhere to buy goods and services. And of course, you have to find a way to sell all of these high-rise apartment complexes. And how you do that is you bring out models, you bring out salespeople, you get them working to sell these buildings that are basically partially or fully empty, even in the developed cities. So you put the pressure on your sales force to sell these properties, and you adjust the price accordingly. And no two customers, of course, pay the same amount per square meter. And when they talk and they find out that they've took the bait, for paying a higher price than their neighbor did for the same exact house, then they get real angry. And in some cases, in rural China, they'll burn down the property management house. So this is what's happening. You got to promote this stuff, and you got to convince people to overpay for what is essentially a massively overpriced condo. And this is kind of how you do it. It's all getting more and more fancy, with these elaborate models and salespeople dressed in suits and treating it as if you're getting something special, that you're getting something exclusive. But in actuality, what you're getting is leftover apple pie, not even apple pie a la mode. And that's what most of the Chinese people don't understand, is that they won't be able to get the American dream in China because of the way that this system is set up. Okay, there's, I guess, a maximization of what kind of creature comforts you can get in China at any price. And it's quite a complicated economic explanation for it. But I think that eventually we'll put it into terms that people can understand, because so far I haven't heard anybody talk about China and explain the fact that at a certain point, even the wealthy people in China cannot obtain the things that they could obtain in the West during the boom years of America. This best can be described as the law of diminishing returns. At a certain point, there's a very hard ceiling in China where you just simply can't get some things at all unless you find a way to smuggle it in. If you want to get, like, very expensive Venetian marble that the government doesn't approve of in an import-export situation, and you can't even pull it in through Hong Kong, you've got to do something special to smuggle it in. And that's what it's like in China. You've got a hard ceiling, diminishing returns. Anything of a good value is swallowed up immediately and gone. The budget things, there's abundance of, and the high-end luxury things, there's a set amount of them, but you don't get a lot of flexibility there to obtain something that's really, really high-end for a good value. And that's the market. For example, there are 5 different floor plans in these new structures being built. they're almost virtually the same. They go anywhere from about 70 square meters up to this 133 square meters. So it's small, small, and smaller, and small, and still small. Those are your choices. It kind of reminds you of, the communist days in the past where you only had one choice, one color of clothing, one color of shoes, so on and so on. Here it's still the same way in a lot of situations. You're going to overpay for the 70 square meter house. You're going to overpay for the 133 square meter house. You can't buy a 200 plus square meter house in this new development zone. And you can no longer buy two houses because of the government restrictions. So you see, you're locked into a set of choices that you can't possibly get out of unless you do it customized. You go outside of the law. And that has been happening in China recently. There have been a number of developers that have had their structures torn down because they didn't get the appropriate licenses by the SHICOMs and the local government as well. They built beyond the specifications and made these units bigger than what they are supposed to be because their customers demand it. Yet they're asked to tear them down because they didn't pay the piper. Pay to play in China, just as it is in America. Once again, selling a dream of owning a home when there is no deed or title transfer. It's a 70-year lease, so basically you're renting a dream. Whereas in many countries you can buy acres of real estate for much less and actually own it. Here in China it's a 70-year lease